This is an HP Probook 455 G1 and it has both Phillips screws with the cross head, and it's also got these star T8, I think T8 screws. So that makes taking this apart much more difficult than it needs to be. And if you've watched the video on old PC gunk, this laptop does not work at all. I plugged the power in and you'll see it sort of does this weird flashing thing. Okay, so that's a little better than it was. It sort of, before it seemed to flash much more intermittently. So I'm gonna just try a different RAM actually. I've replaced the CMOS battery with a brand new one. I'm gonna put in some memory that I know works, although I should be using DDR3L, PC3L RAM. Got some down here that I have tested and know that it works. Then again, that's not PC3. Okay, I've got some PC3L RAM. I'll put that in, make sure it clicks, and then we're going to put the power in, see what happens with the power light. So it's flashing. Let's try the power button. And then it's doing this flashing thing again. So this fan doesn't spin up, so nothing's happening there. Let's take it apart and see what we find. Maybe reseating the processor is going to help. Maybe it's not, but I'm going to try and see what happens. Sorry about the noise. There's a computer over there that I'm leaving on to make sure it works reliably without crashing. That is the PC build, and sorry about the screwdriver, it's quite squeaky. That is the PC build. That's a 3rd gen Intel, and I've just put in an i5 3470 CPU so that it's got 4 cores. And that has doubled the CPU performance compared to the i3 3220T. There are a lot of screws in this system. Quite frustrating. And I'm going to need to switch to a different screwdriver at some point. So the rest look like they are Phillips rather than these security bits, and I think there might be screws under these little rubber covers, so I'll check that. It makes life more difficult. Yep, there are. So I'm going to have to take all these out. There's about 6 of those. Of various different sizes. Slightly different shape on the back. So I've removed the 6 screws along the sides, and now I need to remove all the Phillips screws, which are all over the place. Hopefully I don't need to, well, I probably do need to remove basically all of them. I'll drop that one in the fan. I'm going to try PC3 standard RAM, just in case someone's put in PC3L RAM by mistake at some point. Where are the originals? So I think these are the original sticks of RAM that were in there. PC3L, but maybe at some point, oh no, look, S series blah 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 only supports DDR3L module, so it does need to be DDR3L. It says so right there. So let's go back to not changing that for other type of RAM. Remove the optical drive, and there's some screws under there as well, here and here. I've removed all the screws. There were about 26 screws in total. Hopefully this means I can now pull this away, or perhaps I need to do it from the other side. It's got one of those keyboards that slides down, and then you can lift it up, disconnect the ribbon cable. Quite clean under there. Let's have a look at part numbers. And then, yep, we've got more screws over there, over here. I think there were 26 screws so far, so we've got another 4 at least, making a grand total of 30 screws. There's a few ribbon cables and connections that need to be unplugged in an ideal world. But otherwise it's relatively straightforward. And then there's another ribbon cable under there. There's this connection. And we've removed the top plate, so there are quite a few different kind of ribbon cables, connections, ribbon cable, etc. As you can see, and then underneath we've got the main system board. The fan up here, power connector, video connector, battery connector, and there are 3 more screws perhaps, and then we might have this board out. I've dealt with HP laptops previously, and seems like power issues are fairly common. I don't know whether that's because people use cheap power supplies. This is an HP, so a genuine one, but yeah, I've had issues with the HPs previously with either the power on the board going or the power supply going. I seem to have had more failures with HP than with other laptops, but you know, I don't do many laptops, to be honest, in terms of repairs, because don't always have time. So I've got the board out of the system. I've unplugged the power connector for the battery. I'm going to put that to one side, and then I'm going to have a look at this board. So this is the power connector. That is where the battery was connected. So these will be all of the power circuitry. Could do with some more light. Not sure if you're seeing anything interesting here, but I'm not seeing anything obvious, except that the memory doesn't really look like it's in properly. Let's have a look at the processor. So we've got an AMD A4. And that is an A4 4300M series. I've also got an interesting looking chip over here. But let me look up this processor. Need something to hold this light for me, basically. Okay, the AMD A4 4300M is a dual core APU, 35 watts, turbo speed 3 gigahertz, and according to CPU Passmark, it's got a multi-thread rating of 977. So for me, this is not a system that is worth spending money on. It's, you know, half the performance of a Intel Core 2 Duo Q6600. Thermal paste is still wet, surprisingly, but I will take this processor out, put it back in, put some thermal paste on, put it all back together, or maybe try it like this, see if I can get a video out from this system. But yeah, this is not a system that has high performance potential. To spend money on this system would be quite poor economic decision making. You know, I've already spent money on this laptop, spent £20 getting this laptop, doesn't work, and to spend more on it would be quite silly when you can get a really nice laptop for £30 or £40 that's actually working. You know, you can get ThinkPads for 40 or 50 pounds. In fact, the X270 ThinkPad that I bought, 7th gen Intel, was 55 pounds, and then postage on top. So it doesn't cost a lot of money to get something significantly better than this. Anyway, I'll put some thermal paste on this and we'll see what we can do with it. We'll see if it works. Here is some thermal paste. Oh, I haven't reseeded the processor yet. Okay, let's do that. To clean that as well. Okay, I quite like sort of putting it in place, pressing it down and then checking it, but it looks like I'm gonna have to screw it in for it to actually go down. And it's numbered, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's check that. Whoops. Yeah, that's a good amount of spread. Okay, so I'm going to try and power it outside of the case, and the main problem with that is that I won't have a keyboard and mouse, and I won't have basically the power button. I need to connect the power button somehow. That is part of the sort of top plate for the laptop. So we've got a VGA connection, got power, and where is this? So power button is up here. I've managed to remove the power button from the top case. I just need to work out where it actually goes. Probably is on the other side. I think this is the most likely location for this power button. So we've got the PC, we've got a power button, and let's plug the power in, see what happens. And it's got a light here. You can see it's still flashing in the same sort of way. So I'm going to press this power button and it flashes in the same way. So it is not working. This is not spinning. Nothing is happening. It's just doing that. Eventually it stops, and if you press the power button it does it again. So power goes here. None of these seem hot, but there's also these sort of power things over here. None of them seem hot either. Yeah, there's not much else for me to try on this as far as I'm aware. I'll unplug the power. Nothing came up on the screen, of course. Seeing if there's anything interesting on this side. But it doesn't really look like it. Yeah, I would say that this system is 100% not working. So, I mean, it was interesting to find out what the processor is in here. I can take the memory out from this system and use it in some other things after testing it. Also take the CMOS battery, get that back. Maybe this wireless adapter will work in a different system. But yeah, this is a non-functioning laptop, and I don't think there's much else I can do with this other than give it to e-waste. I'm not going to start diagnosing any of the sort of this power circuitry. That is not my sort of area of expertise, and it's possible that you could get a replacement motherboard for this system from eBay. I'm guessing if you're lucky about £20, but then like I was saying, you could just spend a little bit more and get a fully working laptop. Repairing these old laptops seems not particularly economically viable, unfortunately. Yeah, especially with a processor that is quite low power. Okay, so is there anything you would do differently? Anything easy that I've missed? Let me know. There's not a sort of reset BIOS button somewhere that I'm unaware of. I don't have a BIOS programmer or anything like that, so that's kind of out of the question. But yeah, interesting seeing this AMD system. But ultimately it's not working, so let's move on. Thanks for watching. See you in another video. This is the wireless adapter. Just thought I'd show you the wireless adapter.